Thank you very much, Professor Ozonu. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending on where you are joining us from. Also from my side, and welcome to the 24th iDRiM Café. My name is Marius Dogeanu, and I'm not the head of the civil protection. The head of the civil protection in Romania is the Prime Minister. I'm just the head of the General Directorate for the Civil Protection in the Department for Emergency Situation, Ministry of Home Affairs, Romania. Uh, before to start, I would like to clarify some aspects which will shape the way we are running normally the next 90 minutes. As Professor Ozonu mentioned, we have six speakers on the program coming from government, civil society, and academia, both from Romania and India. Each of them brings a body of work that would easily fit an entire cafe on its own. When we built the agenda, we deliberately choose to not cut any of the contributions because the perspectives are complementary, in my opinion, and the picture only makes sense when you see them together. From the Romanian side, in particular, we made a specific editorial choice. We wanted to bring both sides of the cooperation in the same room. Civil protection in Romania has, over the past year, developed what I consider an excellent working relationship between the public authorities and civil society organizations, tested in real events. From the Ukraine refugee response to floods and other emergencies. It is a relationship we are proud of and one we want to continue to invest in. Rather than describe it from one perspective, we invited representatives from both sides, the state and the society sector, to speak to speak for themselves. In other words, you will hear the institutional voice, but also the civic voice back to back. And I invite you to read them as two halves of the same conversation, not as a two competing narratives. The consequence of a full agenda, of course, it's the time will be very tight. So I will ask each speaker respectfully but firmly to try to keep to 10 minutes. This is not because your material does not deserve more, it is clear it does, but because we wanted to protect the proper Q&A session at the end, because the value of this cafe is in the exchange, not only in the presentations. If today's discussions generate the interest I expect it will, we can very well come back to any of these threads in a dedicated follow-up session, and I would encourage iDRiM community to consider that. A brief word on why this topic matters and why now. At least from the Romanian perspective, we have spent decades building hard infrastructures, command center, alerting system, urban search and rescue teams, stockpiles. All of it is necessary. None of it is sufficient. What we have learned from the Ukrainian refugee response, from the earthquake in Turkey, from the floods across Europe, from pandemic, it's that the first responder is almost always the neighbor. The quality of the response depends on a layer that no ministry can build alone. Trust, network, habits of cooperation. In two words, social capital. Where it exists, the formal system amplifies it. Where it's missing, no amount of equipment can compensate it. That's the conversation we are opening today. So without being said, I will just remind you that the meeting is recorded. So those that could not attend today this online session, they will have the chance to see it in the future. And I will hand over now to our first speaker, which is Mr. Mihai Lupu. Mr. Mihai Lupu is the Chief of Staff of the State Secretary Raed Arafat, Head of Romania's Department for Emergency Situation. Mihai works at the exact interface where the doctrine meets civic reality, behavioral challenge, organizational culture, multi-stakeholder coordination. He is also the founder of the EduCab, an international platform strengthening local social and civic infrastructures across 12 countries. He will open the session with a stateside perspective on how DSU act as a bridge to civil society. The floor is yours, Mihai. Thank you. And
Marius,
remember,
thank you so much. Can
try
you hear
to
me?
fit in 10 minutes, Mihai, sorry.
I'll try. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak in this important format. I've seen the list of speakers, and it's an important conversation, and I hope it will continue, and we can go more into depth. I would continue your introduction, adding that in building in this ecosystem of collaboration in between the state and the civil society, and I'll explain in a minute what do we understand through civil society. We are starting from the whole of society approach. For us, that's a Bible from practice, but also from anything that is related to academic research, studies, and from official documents like the Ninisto report that we have at the level of the European Union, European Commission. And I would split my presentation in two main sectors. On one hand, we have the unorganized civil society and how we are dealing with the citizens and how we are trying to create a mechanism strong enough in order to get our messages towards population. And second, organized, I would say, civil society, so legally established NGOs, federations of NGOs, even if they are informal groups, they are, having a goal there, a scope in a particular situation. Let's say if it's an emergency happening, and I would start with the second, with the organized, I would say, civil society, and mention that the way we understand it, it's maybe a bit unorthodox because we don't include here only the NGOs, let's say, associations, foundations, all the non-profit, environment, but also, let's say, private companies. I'm talking about companies that are on critical infrastructure that we want to keep close to us, to work together in order to be sure that we are prepared if anything happens. And most of you here in the call, you know the terrible fire in a club in Bucharest that happened a few years ago. Recently, we had another one, a big fire, pretty much the same kind of dynamic it was in Switzerland, and they were elsewhere. And these are causing a lot of casualties. And when we had the control, not the control. What's the name of the club? I miss it. Anyway, we
Collective.
Collective. Yes, collective. Thank you. We of course moved quickly. Of course, we had our emergency units, ambulances, paramedics, etc. in there, but we realized that the civil society and the NGOs that wanted to help, that were not calibrated with us. They were not calibrated with the way we are working, with the way we are responding, and that's the moment when we intensified what we've been already started a few years before. So fast forward, we are having right now over 60 protocols of collaborations with various entities. And of course, we are looking at areas that we know they are critical. As you mentioned, Marius, at the beginning, in the golden hour, when an emergency situation happens, it's most probably that not the professional rescuers are intervening, especially if it's a big emergency, it's natural disasters and so on, but the neighbor. So for us, it was a matter of calibrating on all the phases of when we are talking about civil protection, from prevention to preparing the population to intervention and then recovery. Of course, there are also micro levels for each of these four. So we were looking at, we were scanning the NGOs and professionals that were involved or wanted to involve in any of these steps, and trying to find a common language with them, both in exercises but also in interventions. When we were preparing for something that is not working, disasters and emergencies happening, but also and most important, when it's happening, to be sure that we can work together very, very fast, and we can cover whatever it's needed to cover. So we have from small NGOs that are on seismic risks. It can be 1, 2, 3 persons there in an NGO, but very important link. They are very active. They are working with other stakeholders like schools, like other NGOs and so on, to big organizations like federations of NGOs that have dozens of NGOs under their umbrella, and we have Mihaela Munteanu and Diana Chiriacescu from the Romanian Federations of NGOs on social assistance. So under your umbrella, and you'll probably share it afterwards in your speech, you have 40 plus NGOs. So from small NGOs to big NGOs to from niched, very niched NGOs to more general ones like the Red Cross or very, very good partnership with the UN agencies and so on. So this is the ecosystem that we are trying to build, working together and calibrating in usually in exercises, but in the last couple of years, we had many emergencies, from floods to earthquakes in other countries, but also in Romania, in southwestern part of Romania, to big disasters and emergency situations, like, as Marius, you've mentioned, the pandemic and the invasion of Ukraine from the Russian Federation. I will park this for a bit. Probably I have another 5 minutes, right? More or less. 1 minute.
Another 5 minutes to 3.
3 minutes. I will switch to the the work we are doing towards the population, the general population, and it's not that we are going to the general population with general messages, but we are trying to also go granularly on age groups and tackling messages, urban, rural, and this is work in progress. As with the first one, working and trying to build strong, mature communication and partnerships with civil society. The same we are trying to do with the general population, and here we are trying to find the resources there, the communication channels, in order for our messages, especially those for getting prepared if anything is happening, to reach to the population, right? So we've built from like since, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, various tools and we added those on what was existing already. I mentioned here that every year the fire brigades in each of the 41 counties in Romania, plus Bucharest and Ilfov. Bucharest, as you all know, is the capital of the country. They are organizing all sorts of events for preparing the population, from open door events to going proactively into school or other places. During events, festivals, days of the city, sorts of events, and passing messages about how to be prepared in case of a fire or other emergency situation. Now, in second, now in addition to this, we wanted to push a lot of the messages online. So that's why we've put together, now we have the second version of the national platform for preparing the population, be prepared.ro, fipregătit.ro, which is, if you want, a collection of guidelines on all sorts of emergencies, from earthquake to flood, from heat wave to I don't know how to use the 112 unique number in European Union, and a lot of the content that we have here, we try to then put it also in different in formats that are useful to different age groups, like for kids and adolescents, how to prepare the elderly for different emergencies and so on. We also included quite recently AI chat a bot that tries to go granularly if you have questions that are not covered with one guideline on the platform, then it scans all the guidelines, our guidelines, but also similar guidelines of other civil protection agencies in the world, or UN agencies that also have useful guidelines, institutions like Red Cross and so on, and is trying to give you a very granular response on your need. I'm in a boat, it's night, it's foggy, and I have water in my boat. I'm in the middle of, let's say, a lake. What do I do? We don't have a guideline for this, but then you can use the chat box that we've trained for a few months in order to give you useful.
We have to conclude, sorry.
Yeah, so I would say that all that we are building, we have the DSU app that also gives you also a map with useful information from mountain shelters to civil protection shelters within cities, and other tools where we keep in contact with the NGOs. We have on the website a section with news from the partners, from our partners that we have protocols of collaboration with, also a calendar where you can show the events of our partners. In this way, we can show not only what we do as the state and the integrated mechanism of civil protection, but also the other pieces of the ecosystem, which are our partners from the civil society. Again, citizens, NGOs, academic institutions, and we have Stefan from academic institutions, research institutes. We have Mihaela from the NGOs and Diana, but also critical infrastructure companies. And it's evolving. It's work in progress. We have plans how it will, and we want to look in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, but depending on the situation and emergencies, it might get us even further than what we wanted or we've aimed to. Before the pandemic, we would not, and then Ukraine crisis, we would not have expected to get to this point. And I think crises are getting us stronger, and giving us the opportunity to actually grow mature in our relationship. Marius, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lupu. And please for all of you that we have to be, all of us, in 90 minutes, yes? It is a structure of a IDRiM Café. In this context, I will ask to continue with our colleagues from India, because Professor Misha already not was able to enter. In this context, yes, I introduce Professor Rama and also Professor Nubir. Okay, Professor Rama, it is Professor and Dean of the School of Planning and Architecture in Bhopal, and she will start, of course, to present what already prepared, and after that I will ask Professor Nubir, and after these colleagues from India, I will ask the colleagues from Romania to continue, and in this situation, I will ask also Dr. Dojanu to continue after our Indian colleagues. Thank you very much. Please, Professor Rama. The microphone, Professor Rama.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Shall I share my screen?
Yes, yes.
Just give me a minute.
Yes.
Is it visible?
It's only, yes, now it's okay. Okay. We can see it very clear. Thank you.
So at the outset, I would like to thank IDRiM for providing this opportunity to present in this cafe. This presentation focuses on the relationship between social capital and community resilience in the context of disaster risk reduction. Building strong social connections and fostering a sense of community can lead to more effective collaboration during times of crisis, ultimately contributing to a community's overall resilience. Understanding this interplay is crucial for developing successful disaster risk reduction strategies. So my presentation is structured in 4 parts. First part discusses about understanding of social capital, and then second part discusses 4 cases across varied geographies. The third is our study on socio-cultural resilience for DRR, for establishing the importance of social capital in community and disaster resilience. Fourth part is about the socio-cultural resilience index developed in this study. So as we all know that the disasters are increasing all across the world, the frequency is increasing, the cost of disasters mitigation is increasing, intensity is increasing. Though the deaths have reduced, but then the overall mortality is higher, the overall numbers are higher. In India also more deaths are happening because of the disaster. So in this context, disaster risk reduction is no longer understood only in terms of physical infrastructure, engineering, protection, or emergency relief system. It is also deeply connected to social relationships, institutions, and community capacity. In many disasters, communities survive and recover not merely because of state intervention, but because neighbors help neighbors, local groups mobilize quickly, and trusted networks circulate information and resources. So this is where the concept of social capital comes into play, because it explains how trust, reciprocity, participation, and collective action strengthen resilience before, during, and after disastrous events. Unlike physical capital or financial capital, social capital is embedded in human relationships and collective behavior, and it becomes especially visible in times of stress or crisis. In disaster context, social capital helps explain why some communities are able to organize better, share warnings, and coordinate recovery efforts than others. So the authors, Zayo and others, conducted a systematic review of 24 empirical studies and identified 5 critical mechanisms through which social capital enhances community disaster resilience. It is about facilitating shared learning, risk awareness, and knowledge exchange, enabling coordinated community efforts before, during, and after disasters, strengthening preparedness, planning, and readiness, improving risk communication, trust, and information sharing, fostering volunteerism, reciprocity, solidarity, trust, and community responsibility. Yes?
Sure.
Coming to the second part where I said I'll be discussing cases. So 4 cases I have selected all across geographies. So here one is in Gili, Travangan, Indonesia, where in August 2018, earthquake of magnitude 6.9 has struck, severely damaging tourism infrastructure and utilities. Communication failures, disrupted transport, limited government support, and shortages of essential supplies hampered emergency responses. So there, again, the strong social networks enabled the community-led rescue. And the second case, like monsoon in Mumbai in 2025, in the month of August. So within 24 hours, 322 mm of rainfall had happened, causing severe flooding and widespread disruption, transport failures, power outages, etc. So here again, the strong community network had helped in the recovery process and at the time of event. And in the cyclone Shaheen in Oman also brought lots of devastations over there because they had experienced it after 130 years. So there again, social capital strengthened the community-led rescue efforts. Then the fourth one in Malaysia, again, the inland floods had destroyed very many livelihoods, isolated communities. The more important part over here was the government and the relief could not reach there on time. So there again, the strong social capital enabled neighbors, volunteers, local leaders to coordinate the rescue. So based on the literature and these 4 cases, so 8 indicators were identified. Yeah. So 8 indicators were then we synthesized those indicators using the noise framework, needs, opportunities, improvements, strength, and exceptions. Due to shortage of time, I won't elaborate on this over here, and I'll share the presentation. One can go through this. Then the third part is I want to discuss over here our paper on analyzing socio-cultural factors that are influencing community disaster reduction. We took the 3 cases of indigenous Koli communities of Mumbai. Since the culture plays a major role in building social capital, that's why I chose to discuss this here. This paper was developed from the undergraduate thesis of my scholar, Ms. Sanskriti Shukla. It was established through a mixed method approach that socio-cultural resilience must be integrated with DRR, and social capital is an important component of this. So this was done first through establishing linkages between socio-cultural aspects and DRR through literature. Second, mapping coastal vulnerabilities in 3 indigenous Kolivada, these are the fishing communities in Mumbai. And third is developing a socio-cultural resilience index based on identified indicators across the selected Kolivada communities. So first, through literature, we developed this socio-cultural resilience framework. So a bibliometric analysis was conducted using keywords such as socio-cultural resilience, disaster resilience, indigenous community, resulting in 196 papers. We selected 11 papers for in-depth study based on their citation and publication after the year 2015. And then from there, what we could see that the social capital in all those 11 papers were the front runner, followed by community infrastructure, culture, and sense of place. So we followed this framework for our analysis. So since the fishing communities live in coastal areas, a coastal vulnerability index was developed for Mumbai based on 6 geological and physical parameters as illustrated on the slide. The location of the 3 selected fishing communities are also highlighted over here. One is Khardanda, Worli, and the Kolaba in the southern Mumbai. So the 3 when we did this vulnerability index, so we found that the Kolaba has the highest vulnerability index because of the location of the buildings in the vicinity of the sea. And the other 2 had a little less vulnerability. So going into this thing, so this is the socio-cultural resilience index. So based on household surveys, observations, and secondary data, we conducted in all these 3 settlements around 152 surveys. And the information, all the 31, this SCR index has the 4 components, social capital having 30%, culture 20% weightage, community infrastructure 35% weightage, sense of place 15% weightage. So all these are divided in indicators and sub-indicators, and then the survey was conducted and information was collected through all the 4 Kolivada communities. And we can see over here that again here the Kolaba has the least resilience amongst the 3, and the Worli has the highest resilience. So here, relating this socio-cultural resilience index to the 4 components of socio-cultural resilience, it was found that the Worli is supported by 5 community-based organizations, alongside strong community participation and high trust amongst the residents, whereas Kolaba exhibits weaker social cohesion. Worli has the strongest community identity also, with 3 functional cooperative banks and 67 multi-generational families. In Khardanda too, 53% of residents have alternate supplementary livelihoods options, enhancing their resilience. As far as community infrastructure is concerned, Kolaba remains the most deficient, with 60% infrastructure gaps and 45% dilapidated houses. Worli and Khardanda have conserved their worship places also, and Worli is still continuing with their traditional fishing. That's why they have the higher resilience. So concluding the study, we can say that we concluded that the socio-cultural factors are vital for DRR and low-lying fishing communities. Vulnerabilities are multidimensional, socio-economic, cultural, and physical. This study contributes to DRR knowledge in 3 ways: identification of indicators through literature review, coastal vulnerability mapping, and mixed method assessments, integrating socio-cultural factors into DRR, recognizing and harnessing socio-cultural strengths. So the key takeaways are listed over here, like trust and awareness as primary drivers, community-led disaster management, institutionalizing social capital, integrating social capital for resilience, inclusive and context-sensitive resilience, and transforming disaster governance. These were the 6 key takeaways that we could identify through our 4 cases, literature, and our study of Mumbai. These were the references used. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rama. I am very happy to welcome Professor Mishra. He already entered in our
You have
meeting.
to open your microphone, Professor Mishra. Your microphone is off.
Okay. And as I already presented before the speak of Professor Rama, I ask Professor Nubil to continue. After that, we return to Romanian presenters. Okay? Okay. Professor Nubil is with us. He is professor in the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences and joint faculty in the Center of Excellence in Disaster Mitigation and Management. Please, Professor.
Thank
Nubil.
you. Thank you, Professor Alexander and Professor Mishra, for giving me this opportunity. At the start only, I would like to make a disclaimer that I have not done any work specifically in the domain of social capital or on community resilience, because by training and by profession, I am an economist and I teach these subjects at my university. So what I'm going to very quickly present to you are insights following 2 research that I have done. And how did I come to know about the relevance or role of social capital? Now, I thought that I will be the last presenter, so most of the concepts would have been presented before me, so I kept my presentation very short. However, we all know that there is a synergy between climate change adaptation, disaster risk reduction, and we are anticipating that climate change adaptation and DRR is going to enhance resilience, whether we talk about micro resilience or we talk about macro resilience. Now, if we look at the disaster literature, more or less we agree that if a society, if the vulnerability in a society increases, there will be more impacts of disaster, and this is going to have impact on the inequality. And there are literature that suggests that, if there is accessibility issues with regard to social capital, then inequality can further, increase, and thereby it is going to create problem with regard to efficient disaster risk management. Of course, there are different kind of interventions which can enhance resilience, and such interventions are also heavily dependent on the existing social capital that is there at the community level. I don't want to repeat DRR, but we already have seen, given the previous presentation, that DRR does really depend on, and if we look at all its components, whether we talk about risk prevention, management, and mitigation, we have seen that social capital does play a very important role. If we look at the common goal of both DRR and CCA, we will see that they both place society's vulnerability in front. And the moment we talk about society's vulnerability, again, society and societal capital again emerges as a very important component as to whether a particular community is going to enhance its resilience or not. It is also dependent on the currently endowed level of social capital. And of course, if we are able to utilize the social capital in a much better way, there are studies which says that it is also going to help you in meeting the sustainable development goals or reaching out the goals faster. So with this, I will just very briefly talk about 2 studies. One study that I did in the Uttarakhand Himalayas. So Uttarakhand is a state, as you can see the India's map. Uttarakhand is a state which is bordering Nepal in the east, and it is we are bordering China in the north. So this is a hilly state. We are in the Himalayas, and we all know that there are disasters happening on and off in this particular region. So the research objective was to find out whether there is willingness to pay for a hypothetical insurance, disaster insurance, or a catastrophic insurance product. And I was, visiting households door to door, my respondents, in the district of Pithoragarh, which is bordering Nepal. You can see the map. So this is the map of Uttarakhand state, and this is the map of Pithoragarh district. And on the eastern side is Nepal, and in the northern side it's China. So I was doing the survey along with my research scholar. It's a wonderful area to be, and things were happening very nicely. Until one day, it was in the middle of the survey period that we witnessed something that is referred to as a cloudburst. And cloudburst is a kind of a situation where, according to the Indian Meteorological Department's definition, a certain volume of rainfall happens within a particular period of time, and that leads to immediate flash flood. And what happened in this particular event was that there were like 2 villages that were completely washed out. Now, we were doing survey there to understand how individuals could, consider a catastrophic insurance policy, how they are going to, show their willingness and eagerness, and how much they're going to pay for such a policy. But what happened was an actual disaster. And this was also a first time that we also witnessed a disaster. Now, this is a very difficult terrain. This is a terrain where it is very difficult to reach. Even, public services will take some time to reach these communities. So what I saw and what I witnessed was that social capital plays a very crucial role in such situations. Of course, as you can see, the news that came up, it reported that there were like 30 plus people killed or missing after the cloudburst because some bodies were not recovered. But we, took out some lessons from this. The first lesson is that, whatever way we think of, trying to mitigate disaster by spending more and more money on infrastructure, by doing this or by building economic capital, we are not going to, enhance resilience unless we pay equal importance to social capital. Now, as an economist, when I look at the economic text, the issue of social capital is little, I'd say it's little difficult to handle. It's not that we do not have data so that we can calculate what is social capital, but often it becomes very tricky to identify the correct methodology. What will be the correct approach? So what kind of a good is social capital? Is it a tangible good? Now, generally, whenever we are talking about economic good, if I consume that particular good, the other person will not be having that good. But social capital is completely reverse. If you are, according to some authors, if we are generating social capital, then social capital will only increase over a period of time. But if we fail to utilize social capital, then there will be no use of social capital. And there are classic, notes by Partha Dasgupta that one can read where he explicitly defines that what is the role of social capital. There are papers which also say that social capital is very, very important for economic growth. Leave aside, the question of inequality, the question of, efficiency in disaster risk management. It completely depends on how you can motivate your community. So community resilience improves if there is enough social capital, there is enough understanding of the existing social capital. There are n number of studies. I found one study in the International Journal of Disaster Risk Reduction, very interesting, by Puan and Hokyo. So, if you want to have a look at it, it will be like, it was kind of an eye-opener for me. So, even if you think about, communities where, especially the hill communities where infrastructure is very, very poor, it is very difficult to reach out with the government provisioning. Their social capital works better. Their communities are actually supporting each other. And the question that I was asking, that whether you are going to buy an insurance policy or not, maybe we have to reconsider and think that, well, there is some kind of social insurance already present, and it is the community that is providing insurance in this particular case. So we have to actually design an insurance policy which is also going to take into account this particular aspect, that the role that the community plays, the society plays at large when such kind of crisis happens. So this was kind of a key learning for us when we actually went for this particular survey in this particular district. Now I will move from Pithoragarh, which is in the eastern side of the state, to a state which is in the western side. That is the state, that is the district of Uttarkashi. So we were doing this project for APN, where our main interest was, this is more or less related to understanding social capital, how communities perceive their, resources, the environmental resources. How do they value environmental resources? And what kind of, and the services that the environment provides them, the ecosystem provides them, and what would happen if climate change and disaster risk increases, and what they perceive will be the changes that will be happening in the in the local setting. So we were doing this study in Lakwar watershed. This watershed is in the Yamuna river subbasin. So Yamuna river subbasin is a part of the Ganga subbasin. All of us know about the river Ganga, which is the lifeline of the country, and Yamuna is one of the major tributaries of river Ganga. And there are many, projects planned on River Yamuna. There is one dam which is being right now constructed on this particular stretch of River Yamuna, where Lakwar watershed is there. So, there are many studies which will say that, well, natural landscape is equally important, and it gives, intangible benefits to the communities and the local residents. So we were just trying to understand how much the community is aware of these intangible benefits, which are not valued at the market. There is no price available in the market. So again, it was an in-depth survey. We spent some amount of time with the communities there in the Lakwar watershed. We used a questionnaire and we started asking, what kind of values you are going to, attach? Is there any social gain by understanding these values? So we mostly interacted with women. It is very easy, and at times we get more insights from women in the rural setting. Now, they gave us some feedback. These feedbacks helped us understand that, well, because of agricultural abandonment, people are not doing agriculture. They are migrating out from these places for better jobs. There is a possibility that, the area under agriculture is coming down. These agricultural lands are being encroached by invasive species, and forests are actually growing. Earlier days, the women used to go and collect, fodder for their cattle, firewood for their fuel needs, etc. So they knew where exactly water is there, where exactly they will get some food. So they were having kind of an inventory. When we asked them, they were just saying that, okay, you go to this part, you will get this. If you go to this part, you will get this. And then they will interact among themselves, and they will say, no, 10 years back, this particular thing was available there. Now it is not available there. So they were actually documenting what is available and what is not available. And we were just looking at that and we were noting them down. So this is a technique in geography which is known as PPGIS, People's Participatory GIS. We actually use that and we noted it down, and then we tried to relate that with the actual maps, that whether this knowledge that is existing with the community, it is actually giving us the correct picture when we are using the GIS map or not. And we were actually surprised when we did this analysis by considering two maps, one map of 2000, another map of 2020, we can very clearly see that whatever the community was saying is actually true. You see the number of hamlets have actually gone up, but many of these villages are also uninhabited because people have moved out, they have migrated. They are kind of ghost villages, but people come back on and off to these places. So if you see, for example, forest cover, you see the green patch has actually increased in 2020 map. You see the barren land has actually, lessened. And why it has lessened? Because it has been encroached by invasive species, so it gives us an impression that there is more forest land. But what we took out from this, this study is that, first of all, they're aware of what kind of endowments they have in terms of natural endowments. Secondly, this knowledge that there are changes happening, the community is already aware. So they will be in a better position to respond to any kind of crisis, any kind of changes that might happen in this particular geographical locale. So I will stop here with my two learnings. If there is any question, I will be very happy to answer. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Nubir. And we will continue with Romanian presenter, and after that, we will give the floor to Professor Mishra to take some conclusion. Okay? If you agree.
Super.
Thank you very much.
Super. Then, Professor Ozonu, please allow me now to introduce Mihaela Munteanu. we saw that Mihai Lupu framed the institutional cooperation from the state perspective. Now, with the support of Mihaela Munteanu and Stefan Cibian, we are going to introduce the other side of the bank. Just few words about Mihaela. She is an advocacy and communication director of FONS, the Romanian Federation of NGOs for Social Services, and coordinator of the Nicolina Iași Humanitarian Social Assistance Center, which she built from the ground up to serve the Ukrainian refugee. 25 years in Romanian social sector give her a clear eye view on what trust before crisis actually requires. Mihaela, and also she will be supported by Diana Chiriacescu, which is also director of FONS. So the floor is over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dogeanu. Good afternoon for all. Thank you very much for this invitation. It's very important for us. My name is Mihaela Munteanu. You know this. And for 3 years and 7 months, I coordinated the Nicolina Humanitarian and Social Assistance Center for Refugees. Was very challenging for me. Now I am responsible for social emergency assistance at FONSS, our Federation of Social Services Providers. This federation, our federation, brings together 47 NGOs working in a social sector. On the screen, you can see some images for our work with the Ukrainian refugees. During the COVID crisis pandemic, we provided support to the population affected by the health crisis. With the outbreak of the war in Ukraine, we became involved in sheltering and assisting civilians fleeing the conflict. We established the Nicolina Center in Iași, a city in northeastern Romania, located approximately 570 kilometers from Kiev. It offered the most comprehensive package of services for Ukrainians refugees in Romania. During this period, we developed a close partnership with the Department of Emergency Situation, and together with the local authorities and other NGOs, we overcame many challenges and built up support for Ukrainian step by step. As you likely notice it, I'm not a fluent English speaker, sorry, this is the situation. So I will ask Diana to present the work we have carried out in the Nicolina Center, and above all, the lessons learned in this long period. I'm remain available to answer any questions you may have. And I would also like to introduce Diana Chiriacescu, our National Director of FONSS. Diana, please help me.
Thank you, dear colleagues. Thank you, Mihaela. I will continue by showing you a bit how this big Center for Humanitarian and Social Aid was developed and managed. And maybe this could fuel a bit our debate on how civil society organizations can complement the place of authorities and civil protection actors in such a situation of unusual dimensions for Romania. So I'm a psychologist. I'm an associate professor of the University of Bucharest and the Faculty of Sociology and Social Work. My initial specialization is in policy reforms and regulatory mechanisms for social services. And together with Mihaela, we work in funds since 10 years. What is interesting for us is that we never were actors of humanitarian assistance before. So in 2020, we started with COVID. And then from 2022, funds managed a very complex national program for humanitarian and social assistance. We covered more than 64,000 refugees from Ukraine, who were in transit or on the long term, in 10 counties of Romania. And we included a mini grant scheme for managing this large number of people. Just for your information, the total volume of our operations in this interval was of 7,600,000 euros. And only the mini grant scheme that we distributed for these organizations, local organizations, was of 4.5 million euro. And for this reason, Funds operates with two main offices in Iași and Bucharest. Well, Nicolina Center was one of these key hubs of services in Iași, northeastern Romania. You see the picture on the right side of the screen. 4,000 square meters of building, and this became one of the most important hubs for services for Ukrainian refugees in Romania. On this screen, you can see the types of services that we could deliver by ourselves or with the support of member organizations or partner organizations, all of them NGOs. But also, and this is the most important thing, we had the support of the City Hall in Iași and the support of the Emergency Inspectorate from Iași, with whom together we delivered concrete services to people in this location. So in order to manage all these things, from social assistance, as you can see on the screen, socio-educational support, psychological support, medical assistance, but also basic humanitarian aid, from meal to livelihood, cash for rent, accommodation, and donation, supply, and so on. You can understand, of course, that we could do this only because we had previously some strong managerial capabilities, and also something which we consider very important, a very robust protection methodology and framework of ourselves. And because of this, we could handle this very unusual volume of operations. In Romania, before 2020, no civil society organizations, or very few of them, were prepared to assess risks and manage risks associated to natural disasters, to pandemics, or to war-related effects. But what we had, and this was maybe one of the key lessons learned for the future, we were very strongly organized. We were organized in coalitions, in federations, or simply in civic groups at local level. And we were quite strong in delivering social services and social medical services for vulnerable people. You must know that in Romania, non-governmental organizations deliver half of the total number of social services in our country. So we are pretty good at this. And for this reason, this capability allowed our federation to start and to increase the capacity to deliver simultaneously what you will see next. First of all, humanitarian assistance. We accommodated in Nicolina 6,000 persons. We distributed very many meals. We handled a social store with donations, distributions for more than 3,000 people. We had a cash for rent program. socializing spaces, but also educational services, kindergarten, after school, Romanian language school, and a lot of programs and activities for children because, as you know, Ukrainian refugees, mothers, single parents came in Romania with a lot of children, some of them newborns. We delivered also a lot of integration activities, economical inclusion, social integration activities, together with our colleagues from UNHCR, from UNICEF, from the Department of Emergency Situations, as you can see in the picture. A lot of evaluation, assessment, counseling, referral activities, language classes for adults and children. And we could do this only with the support of many donors, as you see on this page, and of many partners. And the lessons learned for us go mainly in the following directions. We first understood that in such types of crisis, we can never focus only on humanitarian aid. This nexus approach was for us essential, a combination of aid, basic aid, but also social assistance, medical social care, socio-economic inclusion. Very fast, we needed to focus on this for the Ukrainians. And also something that's quite often neglected during the crisis is this very early empowerment for rights and self-determination of the refugees, or in case of other disasters, of the victims of floods or the victims of pandemics, etc. We also understood how important it is to complement the work between authorities and NGOs. And this is easy to say, not so easy to do, because we have usually different languages, different styles, different procedures, different hierarchies, and we need to accommodate all these things together. So as you will see, we find a bit of a solution for this, and I will mention it in a second. And we also understood that not only ourselves have to be educated for this common work, but also civilians, those who are rescued or those who are immediately supported by our organization. Civilians in general, they must understand and be educated that alongside with authorities who assist them, they also have the duty and the responsibility to act in ways that protect lives of others and mitigate the effects of the crisis for others. And for this reason, we understood, and this is my last slide, we understood that the willingness to help of our organizations, of our colleagues, must be supported always by knowledge, by resources, and by partnerships. And together with other colleagues of ours, we started to learn and to accumulate these resources, and we were very grateful to the Department of Emergency Situations that they took us on board and they accepted us in common exercises and in activities that increased our capabilities very fast. We also understood that we need a coherent mechanism of what we call the response in social emergencies. We are used to think about emergencies as such and to deal with vital risks. But when it comes to social emergencies, not so many people are very prepared. And we succeeded to introduce this concept in our national law on social assistance. And during COVID and Ukrainian crisis, we developed capabilities to deal with this concept. We need to have procedures. We need to deal with vulnerable people who have social consequences of their emergencies. They remain without a roof, without a job, they are completely neglected, they have no families anymore, especially for people with functional disabilities and vulnerabilities. This is very important. And for this reason, we continue to strengthen our preparedness for future crisis situations. And this is why FONS created in Iași something that we call the Civil Society Training Center for Social Emergency Situations. And we started to train our colleagues, already 500 of them, in the northeastern region of Romania, in all aspects of management, preparedness, evaluation of risks, rapid response, protection frameworks, with regards to this type of situations. And of course, we will continue to invest in civil society from our angle as well, along with the authorities, to support both citizens and organizations to develop their capacities in such rapid response situations. And of course, we are very happy to be here with you, and we remain committed to exchanging best practices with the partners from other countries if they will be interested. We will definitely be ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Diana and Mihaela. With an eye on the clock, I will rapidly move to Stefan Cibian, which documented the Romanian civil society mobilization during the war in Ukraine, perhaps more systematically than anyone. Stefan is co-founder and executive director of Făgăraș Research Institute and president of the Romanian NGOs, Developing NGOs Federation. Stefan, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for your presence.
Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who contributed with insights so far. I would like to bring in a perspective from the studies that we've done in regards to the way the local communities mobilized during COVID and during the humanitarian crisis related to the Russian war of aggression in Ukraine. And then I will draw a couple of conclusions. So my plan is to say a few words about the way civil society mobilized in the two crises, and then draw some conclusion based on that. So I'll start chronologically. We have experienced COVID, and then we had the war in Ukraine, I think a specific characteristic of these two crises was that the population was significantly involved. So in that sense, this brought to our attention the importance of communities, civil society, private sector, of basically all actors in regards to addressing crises and in regards to being active players in disaster response. With regard to COVID, this has been a health crisis that has basically pushed our communities in a lockdown context in many cases. And this has led to significant pressures on the systems that usually underpin the functioning of a community, a health system primarily, but all other systems, education, social work, security, etc. So basically, in that context, what we have seen is that local actors started to act. And I think one first important insight relates to, in a way, one can phrase it as fungibility of organizational capacity. That is, organizations that may be run a sports club or scouts or a community foundation or a volunteers organization, they have some capacity to act, which basically becomes fungible. In the case of a crisis, these organizations mobilize themselves in relation to addressing the respective crisis. They obviously will act based on their capacity and their capacity to understand the context and ability to intervene. But this is basically what we've seen in the context of COVID, and we've seen basically hundreds, thousands of organizations and a lot of people mobilizing to basically address challenges related to the pandemic. What we have done is to look at a specific region, the Cluj County. Romania is divided in counties, and Cluj is one of these counties. Cluj-Napoca being one of the largest city in Transylvania. And we have analyzed basically the response to COVID. We had a survey. We basically received responses from 103 organizations. The vast part being associations, around 70%, 20% foundations. So really civil society organizations from the local community and organizations also related to the business sector. Basically, we have seen a very strong mobilization of these organizations in the COVID context. We have seen the different types of contributions, different types of like immediate assistance, and different types of assistance accorded to the people who were isolated during COVID. And basically, what we have done is a social network analysis on the relations among these organizations. So we could see which organizations work with which organization, how the flows of different types of resources, financial, non-financial, went around in basically supporting the local community. And some of the conclusions relate around how basically this mobilization was basically possible because of a prior capacity which these organizations already had and which could be deployed in the context of crisis. Because of the relationships that these organizations already had in context of their own projects. And basically, this enabled a stronger type of cooperation, collaboration, mobilization in the crisis context. A specifically important aspect which came up in this study is also the strong connection that emerged between the civil society organization and the public institutions. While intersector collaboration is not a strength in the Romanian context, crisis basically pushed everyone in a space where everybody was needed. Everybody had something to put on the table. And the fact that there was less understanding among the other of the other sectors and not so much prior engagement, the crisis context basically pushed the public sector and the civil society to come together and work together. So with COVID, we have seen one of the most large scale, I would say, in the Romanian context of this collaboration between municipalities and the organizations and the hospitals and the schools. So really multi-sector collaboration taking place. And it is an experience that basically stayed with us. So I will move to the refugee situation, where we ran also a survey for organizations. Basically, we have seen that this was done in April and May, so the war starting in February. In a couple of weeks, the organizations that filled in the survey mobilized more than 12 million euros, which for the Romanian context is rather significant. And they basically tried to offer different types of support for the refugees that transited and the migrants that transited Romania. Obviously, legally, there was an interesting context and case because Ukrainians had the legal right to visit Romania. So basically the number of refugees was relatively limited, and most of the Ukrainians chose to enter Romania as tourists in essence. Obviously, they had specific needs, basically transiting Romania, moving to other countries, finding shelter, food-related needs, etc. And the civil society organizations basically mobilized to offer this kind of support. So shelters, food, transport, etc. What we have seen here is also that the previous experience accumulated during COVID was extremely useful, and that basically the cooperation with the public institutions proved to be extremely helpful in this context. At the same time, we have seen that the communities basically act based on their own knowledge, and their own knowledge might not actually be enough or adequate for addressing the needs of certain populations during crisis. We have seen people basically going to the border and taking people who needed shelter and providing shelter without any kind of a record or any kind of a system. So this obviously raises significant questions about the safety of this entire process in a sense. So basically, I think a key learning from here is that community actors will act on the knowledge they already have, and that it is extremely important to ensure that community actors understand crisis context and that they have the knowledge they need for different types of crises before those crises emerge. And that obviously the crisis is not a space for imparting knowledge, it's a context for mobilization and action. And the knowledge part, the learning part, needs to happen before, which basically indicates that we need to pay attention to what is happening in schools, what is happening to intersector collaboration mechanisms before crisis, obviously. So in general, how we build mechanisms that bring the kind of knowledge that is needed for different kinds of crisis to the actors that are likely to be mobilized in times of specific crisis. Overall, I would say that we have seen a significant contribution of civil society in these two types of crises. We have seen similarities in terms of the mobilization of communities, organizations, and individuals. We have seen that we have been learning from crisis experiences and able to build on that knowledge for collaborating better, building intersector partnerships. At the same time, I would say we are rather at the beginning in this direction. We need to reconfigure, in my perspective, the entire system when it comes to how crisis-related knowledge is imparted through schools, institutions of various sorts, and how we build these partnerships as a way of life rather than just aspects that are active during crisis moments, because then that's too late and we really need to be really prepared. The lessons need to be done beforehand. Thank you so much for your attention and also for the invitation to contribute, and looking very much forward to the discussion forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Now, very fast to Colonel Iordan Gavrila, the Head of Coordination and Implementation of Resilience Requirement Unit within the General Directorate for Civil Protection. He is, in practical terms, the person that is turning the national resilience concept into an operational public-private platform. Colonel Gavrila, the floor is yours, and show us how military can fit to the time.
Yeah, actually I will, because I start the stopwatch, so I won't have an excuse from now on. I'll try to be very disciplined. Thank you for the opportunity of presenting from the national perspective the efforts that we're putting in for trying to build resilience under this concept of public-private cooperation. I start by stating this process of turning a phrase from a functional mechanism at national level, it isn't a very simple one and has a lot of challenges because a lot of actors are involved, and it's just the duty of the state to try to deconflict all the possible issues that can occur during this process in planning together with the private sector. I have some slides to share with you now, and I want you to tell me if you see it. Yes, I think you'll see it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, thank you. I won't talk too much about the context because all of us know what happened in the latest year, and this was, I would say, opportunity of reevaluating again the level of preparedness, of understanding of where we are in terms of resilience and the capacity of answering to the possible challenges, issues. I'll go directly to the international perspective related to the public-private cooperation. And here's the initiative from the EU level, which created and launched in 2025 this EU preparedness strategy. And amongst the chapters that EU developed, it is also this public-private cooperation development that it is identified as a possible source of increasing the resilience. I displayed here 4 of the main actions that the European Commission wants to support the states to develop, and creating some guidelines that the states can accept and receive support. Then I'll jump very fast on the NATO perspective, because actually NATO started a bit earlier than the Union European, identified this possible source of resilience way before the European Union, even from 2016, when the 7 baseline requirements was established. This public-private cooperation was set as a possible source of support, both for the military side during a conflict and the whole society during all types of crisis. Here, it's clearly the approach of the alliance that states that the resilience is both collective and individual obligation, and it has to be built before the crisis, because peacetime, it's only a window that you can use for a better preparation. I won't go too deep related to that, because I want to get to the Romanian way of doing things. After 2016, Romania immediately implemented the guidelines that were at the NATO level, and mirrored instantly the NATO Resilience Committee, which is formed by 6 planning groups into 7 national planning groups, which has the acronym GDES. It's an interministerial planning group that has this task, coordinated by the Department for Emergency Situation, to try to increase the governmental resilience in general, to support both the population and the military during any type of crisis or conflict. Here I have some ideas that I want to convey to you related to what we're doing in Romania. We are in a process of creating a national council for strengthening the public-private cooperation. We made an internal analysis, and the cross-sector, the private sector share of critical infrastructure, it's quite different. We have, for example, civilian communication, where mostly the infrastructure is private. And we have, for example, the health system, where the hospitals are owned mainly by the state. And we just have to try to align this situation and try to squeeze as much as possible from this cooperation. Clearly, there are a lot of benefits in this cooperation, and I only stated some of them that I also included in this concept. Of course, depending on the country, each country can identify more of these benefits. I dive directly into the process of planning, because actually this is what we want to achieve. We would like to have the holy grail of this effort is to have a plan of resources, so when a crisis occurs, to be both satisfied, the society, the civilians, their essential functions to be satisfied, and also the support for the military side to be satisfied. So we have this 9 logical steps that we identify at the national level. We just have to identify the essential services that we want to provide, both for military and civilian. We just have to create then a national needs picture, gathering types of resources from both sectors. Then we just have to look what the government already have, identify the gaps, and trying to fill in these gaps. We're going towards the private sector who holds the missing resources and try to fill these gaps. Then we get into the moment when we just have to interact with the private sector. We have to create terms of references and try to build this partnership. The government has to choose their partners. It's always in all the discussion and workshops, the word trust appeared. And this partnership, it's created, it's tested to all types of possible way of doing it. They are participating both in joint planning and risk evaluation. And as all the process, it has to have an evaluation stage. Here I identified and I put them, I won't discuss about all of them, the national mechanisms that, from my point of view and the Romania's point of view, have to be put in place so this partnership should work. Each bullet could be a project itself because it involves a large effort in trying to create mechanism, platforms, changing legal instruments, creating common exercises with the private sector, and also supporting the private sector with knowledge and with information that the state has to try to increase their level of resistance under this phrase of business continuity. I can share my presentation because I opted to fill it with some information. If you want to take something from it, I'm gladly to. I'm very happy to share information with anyone interested, and I'm open to questions till the end of this session. Thank you.